squadrons marshaled, captains leading each, the Trojans came with cries in the din of war, like wildfowl, when the long hoarse cries of cranes sweep against the sky, and the great formations flee from winter's grim uncloudless storm, flying in force, shrieking south to the ocean gulfs, speeding blood and death to the pygmy warriors, launching at daybreak savage battle down upon their heads. But Achaea's armies came on strong in silence, breathing combat fury, hearts ablaze to defend each other to the death. When the south wind showers mist on the mountain tops, no friend to the shepherds, better than night to thieves, you can see no farther than you can fling a stone. So dust came clouding, swirling up from the feet of armies, marching at top speed, trampling through the plain. Now closer, closing, front to front in the onset, till Paris sprang from the Trojan forward ranks, a challenger, lithe, magnificent as a god, the skin of a leopard slung across his shoulders, a reflex bow at his back, and a battle sword at hip, and branching two sharp spears, tipped in bronze, he strode forth, challenging all the Argive fleet to fight him, face to face, mortal combat. As soon as the warrior Menelaus marked him, Paris, parading there with his big, loping strides, flaunting for the troops. Atrides thrilled like a lion lighting on some handsome carcass, lucky to find an antlered stag or wild goat just as hunger strikes, and he rips it, bolts it down, even with running dogs and lusty hunters rushing him. And so Menelaus, thrilled at heart, princely Paris, there, right before his eyes, the outlaw, the adulterer. Now for revenge, he thought. Down he leapt from his chariot, fully armed, and hit the ground. But soon as magnificent Paris marked Atrides shining among the champions, Paris' spirit shook. Backing into his friendly ranks, he cringed from death as one who trips on a snake in a hilltop hollow and recoils. Suddenly, trembling, grips his knees, and pallor takes his cheeks, and back he shrinks. So he dissolved again in the proud Trojan lines, dreading Atrides. Magnificent, brave Paris. And at one glance, Hector raked his brother with insults, stinging taunts. Paris! Appalling Paris! Our prince of beauty! Mad for women, you lure them all to ruin. Would to God you'd never been born, or died unwed. That's all I'd ask. Better that we, by far, had never seen you strutting here. An outrage, a mockery in the eyes of all our enemies. Why, the long-haired Achaeans must be roaring with laughter. They thought you the bravest champion we could field. And just because of the handsome luster on your limbs, but you have no pith, no fighting strength inside you. What? Is this the man who mustered the oarsmen once, who braved the seas in his racing deep-sea ships, trafficked with outlanders, carried off a woman far from her distant shores, a great beauty wed to a land of rugged spearmen? You? Cursed your father, your city, all your people, a joy to our enemies, rank disgrace to yourself. So you can't stand up to the battling Menelaus. You'd soon feel his force, that man who you robbed of his sumptuous warm wife. No use to you then, with a fine lyre, and these of Aphrodite, your long flowing locks, and your striking looks, not when you roll and couple with the dust. What cowards, the men of Troy. Years ago, they'd have decked you out in a suit of rocky armor, stoned you to death for all the wrongs you've done. And Paris, magnificent as a god, replied, "Ah, Hector, you criticize me fairly, yes. Nothing unfair, beyond what I deserve. Oh, heart inside you is always tempered hard. Like an axe, it goes through wood when a shipwright cuts out ship timbers with every ounce of skill, and the blade's weight drives a man's stroke. So the heart inside your chest is never daunted. Still, don't fling in my face the lovely gifts of golden Aphrodite. Let me toss aside the gifts of the gods, these glories. Whatever the gods give of their own free will. How could we ever choose them for ourselves? Now, though, if you really want me to fight to the finish here, have all the Trojans and the Achaeans take their seats and pit me against Menelaus, dear to Ares. Right between the lines, we'll fight it out for Helen and all her wealth, and the one who proves the better man and wins, he'll take those treasures fairly. Lead the woman home. The rest will seal in blood the binding pacts of friendship. Our people will live in peace on the rich soil of Troy. Our enemies sail home to the stallion land of Argos, the land of Achaia, with women are a wonder." When Hector heard that challenge, he rejoiced, and right in the no man's land along his lines he strode, gripping his spear mid-shaft, staving men to a standstill. But the long-haired Argive archers aimed at Hector, trying to cut him down with arrows, hurling rocks, till King Agamemnon cried in a ringing voice, "Hold back your salvos, Argives! Son of Achaia, stop your salvos! Look, Hector, that flashing helmet of his, the man is trying to tell us something now." And they held their attack, and quickly men fell silent, and Hector pleaded, appealing to both armed camps, "Hear me, Trojans, Achaeans geared for combat. Hear the challenge of Paris, the man who caused our long, hard campaign. He urges all the Trojans, all the Argives too, to lay their fine armor down on the fertile earth, while Paris himself and the warrior Menelaus take the field between you and fight it out for Helen and all her wealth in single combat. And the one who proves a better man and wins, he'll take those treasures fairly. Lead the woman home. The rest will seal in blood their binding pacts of friendship." He stopped. A hushed silence held the ranks, and Menelaus, whose cry could marshal armies, urged both sides. "Now hear me out as well. Such limited vengeance hurts me most of all. But I intend that we will part in peace at least, Trojans and Achaeans. Look what heavy casualties you have suffered just for me, my violent quarrel, and Paris, who brought it on you all. Now we'll fight. And death to the one marked out for doom and death. The rest will part in peace, and soon bring 2 lambs, a white male and a black ewe, for the sun and the earth, and we'll bring a third for Zeus, and lead on Priam too, Priam in all his power, so the king himself can seal our truce in blood. His royal sons are reckless, not to be trusted. No one must trample on the oath we swear to Zeus. The minds of the younger men are always flighty, but let an old man stand his ground among them, one who can see the days behind, the days ahead. That is the best hope for peace, for both our armies." The Achaean and Trojan forces both exulted, hoping this would end the agonies of war. They hauled their chariots up in ranks at rest. The troops dismounted and stripped away their arms and laid them down on the earth, crowded together. Hardly a foot of plough land showed between them. Back to the city, Hector sent 2 heralds now to bring the lambs at once and summon Priam, while King Agamemnon sent Talthybius off, heading down to the ships for one more lamb. The herald obeyed his captain's orders quickly. Now, the messenger went to white-armed Helen, to Iris, looking for all the world like Hector's sister, wed Antenor's son Helicion's bride, Laodice, the loveliest daughter Priam ever bred. And Iris came on Helen in her rooms, weaving a growing web, a dark red folding robe, working into the weft the endless bloody struggles, stallion-breaking Trojans and Argives armed in bronze had suffered, all for her, at the god of battle's hands. Iris, racing the wind, brushed close and whispered, "Come, dear girl, come quickly, so you can see what wondrous things are doing. Stallion-breaking Trojans and Argives, armed in bronze. A moment ago, they longed to kill each other, longed for heartbreaking, inhuman warfare on the plain. Now those very warriors stand at ease, in silence. The fighting stout, they lean against their shields, their long lances stuck in the ground beside them. Think of it, Paris and Menelaus, loved by armies, go to fight it out with their rugged spears, all for you. And the man who wins that duel, you'll be called his wife." With those words, the goddess filled her heart with yearning, warm and deep for her husband long ago, her city, and her parents. Quickly cloaking herself in shimmering linen, out of her rooms she rushed, live tears welling. And not alone, 2 of her women followed close behind, Aethra, Pythia's daughter, and Clymene, eyes wide, and they soon reached the looming Scion gates. And there they were, gathered around Priam, Panthus and Diomedes, Lampus and Clesias, Hecataion, the grey aid of Ares, and then those 2 with unfailing good sense, Ucalegon and Antenor. The old men of the realm held seats above the gates, and long years had brought their fighting days to a halt, but they were eloquent speakers still, clear as cicadas settled on treetops, lifting their voices through the forest, rising softly and falling and dying away. So they waited, the old chiefs of Troy, as they sat aloft the tower, and catching sight of Helen moving along the ramparts, they murmured one to another gentle winged words. Who on earth could blame them? No wonder the men of Troy and Argos, under arms, have suffered years of agony all for her, for such a woman. Beauty, terrible beauty. A deathless goddess, so she strikes our eyes, but still ravishing as she is, let her go home in the long ships and not be left behind. Us and our children down the years, irresistible sorrow. And they murmur low. But Priam, raising his voice, called across to Helen. "Come over here, child. Sit in front of me. As you can see, your husband of long ago, your kinsmen and your people, I don't blame you. I hold the gods to blame. They're the ones who brought the war upon me, devastating war against the Achaeans. Here. Come closer. Tell me the name of that tremendous fighter. Look, who's that Achaean there, so stark and grand? Many others afield are much taller, true, but I've never set eyes on one so regal, so majestic. That man must be a king." And Helen, the radiance of women, answered Priam. "I fear you so, dear father, and dread you too. If only death had pleased me then, grim death, that day I followed your son to Troy, forsaking my marriage bed, my kinsman, and my child, my favorite now full grown. and the lovely comradeship of women of my own age. Death never came, so now I can only waste away in tears. But about your question, yes, I have the answer. That man is Atreus, son of Agamemnon, lord of empires, both a mighty king and a strong spearman too. He used to be my kinsman, all that I am. There was a world, or did I dream it? Her voice broke, but the old king, lost in wonder, cried out, "How lucky you are, son of Atreus, child of fortune, your destiny's so blessed. Look at the vast Achaean armies you command. Years ago, I visited Phrygia, rife with vineyards, and saw the Phrygian men with their swarming horses, their multitudes, the armies of Atreus, Migdon like a god, encamped that time along the Sangarius riverbanks, and I took my stand among them, comrade in arms, the day the Amazon struck, a match for men in war. Not even those hordes could match these hordes of yours, your fiery-eyed Achaeans." Citing Odysseus next, the old king questioned Helen. "Come, dear child, tell me of that one too. Now, who is he? Shorter than Atreus, son Agamemnon, clearly, but broader across the shoulders, through the chest. There, you see? His armor's heaped on the green field, but the man keeps ranging the ranks of fighters like a ram. Yes, looks to me like a thick-fleeced bellwether ram, making his way through a big mass of sheep flocks, shining, silver gray." And Helen, the child, has just replied, "That's Laertes' son, the great tactician Odysseus. He was bred in the land of Ithaca, rocky ground, and he's quick at every treachery under the sun, the man of twists and turns." Helen paused, and the shrewd Antenor carried on her story. "So they prayed as tall Hector, eyes averted under his flashing helmet, shook the two lots hard, and Paris' lot left out. The troops sat down by rank, each beside his horses, pawing the ground in place of war gear lay. And now one warrior, harnessed, burnished armor on his back, magnificent Paris, fair-haired Helen's consort. First, he wrapped his legs with well-made greaves fastened behind the heels with silver ankle clasps, and next he strapped a breastplate round his chest, his brother, like Chaon's, that fitted him so well. Then over his shoulder Paris slung his sword, the fine bronze blade with its silver-studded hilt. Then the shield strap and his sturdy massive shield, and over his powerful head he set a well-forged helmet. The coarse hair crest atop it tossing, bristling terror. And last he grasped a spear that matched his grip. And following step by step the fighting Menelaus strapped on armor too. Both men, armed at opposing sides of the forces, into the no-man's land between the lines they strode, glances menacing, wild excitement seizing all who watched. The stallion-breaking Trojans and Argive men-at-arms, striking a stand on the dueling ground just cleared, they brandished spears at each other, tense with fury. And suddenly, Paris hurled. His spear's long shadow flew, and the shaft hit Menelaus' round shield, full center. Not pounding, though. The brazen point bent back in the tough armor. But his turn, Menelaus reared with a bronze lance and a prayer to Father says, "Zeus, king, give me revenge. He wronged me first. Illustrious Paris, crush him under my hand. So even among the men to come, a man may shrink from wounding the host who showers him with kindness." Shaking his spear, he hurled, and its long shadow flew, and the shaft hit Paris' round shield full center. Straight through the gleaming hide the heavy weapon drove, ripping down and in through the breastplate finely worked, tearing the war shirt Close by Paris' flank it jabbed, but the Trojans swerved aside and dodged black death. So now Menelaus drew his sword with silver studs, and hoisting the weapon high, he brought it clashing down on the metal ridge. The blade smashed where it struck. Jagged shatters flying had dropped from Atrides' hand, and the hero cried out, scanning the blank skies, "Father Zeus! No god's more deadly than you! Here I thought I'd punish Paris for all his outrage. Now my sword is shattered right in my hands. Look, my spear flew from my grip for nothing. I never hit him." Lunging at Paris, he grabbed his horsehair crest. He swung him round, started to drag him into the Argive lines, and now the braided chin strap holding his helmet tight was gouging his soft throat. Paris was choking, strangling. Now he'd have hauled him off and won undying glory. But Aphrodite, Zeus's daughter, quick to the mark, snapped the rawhide strap, cut from a bludgeoned ox, and the helmet came off empty in Menelaus' fist. Whirling it around, the fighter sent it flying into his Argive, scrambling fast to retrieve it, and back at his man he sprang, enraged with brazen spear, mad for the kill. But Aphrodite snatched Paris away. Easy work for God. Wrapped him in swirls of mist and sent him down in his bedroom, filled with scent. Then off she went herself to summon Helen, and found her there on the steep jutting tower with a troop of Trojan women clustered round her. The goddess reached and tugged at her fragrant robe, whispering low, for all the world like an old crow, the old weaver, who when they lived in Lacedaemon, wove her fine woolens, and Helen held her dear. Like her to the life, immortal love invited.
Quickly, Paris is calling for you. Come back home. There he is in the bedroom. The bed with inlaid rings. He's glistening in all his beauty and his rounds. You never dream he has come from fighting a man. You think he's off to a dance who slipped away from the dancing stretched out at ease.
Enticing so that the heart in Helen's breast began to race. She knew the goddess at once. The long lithe neck, the smooth full breasts, and the fire in those eyes. She was amazed, and she burst out with her name. Maddening me. Oh my God. What now? Lusting to lure me to my ruin yet again. Where will you drive me next? Off and away to other grand luxurious cities, out to Phrygia, out to my own his tempting country. Have you a favorite mortal man there too? Why now? Because Menelaus has beaten your handsome Paris, and hateful as I am, he longs to take me home? Is that why you beckon here, beside me now, with all the immortal cunning in your heart? Well, go to him yourself. You hover beside him. Abandon the gods' high road and be immortal. Never set foot again on Mount Olympus. Never. Suffer for Paris. Protect Paris for eternity. Until he makes you his wedded wife. That was slave. Not I'll never go back again. It would be wrong, disgraceful to share that coward's bed once more. The women of Troy would scorn me down the years. Oh, the torment and never-ending heartbreak. But Aphrodite rounded on her in fury.
Don't provoke me, wretched, headstrong girl. toss you over. Hate you as I adore you now, with a vengeance. I might make you the butt of hard withering hate from both sides at once, Trojans and Achaeans, and then your fate could tread you down into the dust. So she threatened, and Helen, the daughter of mighty Zeus, was terrified. Shrouding herself in her glinting silver robe, she went along in silence. None of her women saw her go. The goddess led the way. Once they arrived at Paris' sumptuous halls, the attendants briskly turned to their own work as Helen, in all her radiance, climbed the steps to the bedroom under the high vaulting roof. There, Aphrodite quickly brought her a chair, the goddess herself with her everlasting smile, and set it down face to face with Paris. And there Helen sat. Helen, the child of Zeus, whose shield of storm and lightning glancing away, lashing out at her husband. So, home from the wars. Oh, would to God that you died there, brought down by that great soldier, my husband, long ago. And how you used to boast, year in, year out, that you were the better man than fighting Menelaus, in power, arm, and spear. So, why not go back now? Your challenge at Menelaus, dear to Ares. Fight it out together, man to man, again. Well, take my advice, and call a halt right here. No more battling with fiery-haired Menelaus, pitting strength against strength in single combat. Madness, he just might impale you on his spear. But Paris replied at once to Helen's challenge. No more, dear one. Don't rake me with your taunts, myself, all my courage. This time, true, Menelaus has won the day. Thanks to Athena. I'll bring him down tomorrow. Even we have gods who battle on our side. But come, let's go to bed. Let's lose ourselves in love. Never has a longing for you overwhelmed me so. No, not even then. I tell you, the first time when I swept you up from the lovely hills of Lacedaemon, sailed you off and away in the racing deep-sea ships, and we went and locked in love on Rocky Island. There was nothing to my hunger for you now. Irresistible longing lays me low. He led the way to bed. His wife went with him, and now, while the two made love in the large carved bed, Menelaus stalked like a wild beast, up and down the lines. Where could he catch a glimpse of magnificent Paris? Not a single Trojan, not one of their famous allies, could point out Paris to battle-hungry Menelaus. Not that they would hide him out of friendship, even if someone saw him. All of them hated him like death, like Black Death. But Marshal Agamemnon called out to the armies, "Hear me now, you Trojans, Dardans, Trojan allies. Clearly, victory goes to Menelaus. Dear to Ares, you must surrender Helen, all her treasure with her, at once, and pay us reparations fair and fitting, a price to inspire generations still to come." So Atrides demanded, and his armies roared assent.